Okay, it's about 7:02 on Monday, September 13th. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Village of Ossining Historic Preservation Commission. This is Adam Markovic's chair of the commission. I'd invite the members and everyone else present to state their name for the record.
Who starts? Dan Garpowit. I'm a new member. I think today's my first day I'm supposed to join.
Joyce Cole.
Phil Ferranda.
Catherine Wilson.
There are 3 staff members here as well. I'm Jaime Martinez, planning director, staff to the board.
Corporation Counsel Stuart Kahan, thank you.
Joseph Augustinelli, building inspector for us.
That will be Manuel Quesada, village trustee, the liaison for the HBC. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
Jaime, it's all yours.
So the first person we have, the first application we have here today is the 329 Spring Street. We do have 4 people in the audience. I'm not sure if any of these individuals are here for this. So if they are, say they should raise their hand. If not, I think we can probably move forward even if they're not here tonight. It's a pretty simple application, so I'm going to pull it up. And then we'll take a look at it.
Jaime, Ms. Quito may be with regard to this application.
Okay,
And actually,
yeah.
I see we just got a note from Chris Walker that he's
Yes.
the owner, so he's the person who's involved.
Great.
If you want to bring Mr. Walker in.
Yeah, I'm bringing them in. I'm bringing Chris in and Quito, Isabel Quito. All right.
And folks, just so you know, Mr. Walker became the owner. Hello, Mr. Walker.
Oh,
Within the last 2 weeks. So the application was actually made by the prior owner. I've spoken with Mr. Walker's attorney, who was kind enough to arrange for Mr. Walker to be here tonight, just for someone for a face for the board to see. But while this was put in by the prior owner, the certificate of appropriateness, if approved by this board, will reflect that it's been revised to note that there is a new owner now.
So the applicant is here today. The application that was put in was in regards to an AC that the previous owner put in. They hired a contractor to come put the AC in. They believed that all the stuff was dealt with at that time. Apparently it was not. And so when the previous owner went to sell the property, it turned up in the title report that the HBC approval was not granted for the AC unit. This is the actual property. So here's Spring Street. It's sort of right at the very end of Spring Street. And what they did is they just put their, like a couple of condensing units for the AC behind a bush. So we do have some pictures of that. It's not nothing particularly interesting, I would imagine, as far as HPC stuff goes. They're just AC units hiding behind this bush from the front yard. And that's pretty much it. So you can see Spring Street from over there, but if y'all have any questions of the applicant. Can't hear you, Adam.
are we opening this up to comments from the board members, or that's later if there are any?
Yeah, so the normal process is, I think you have to have a, you can have a discussion, you have to have a public hearing. Open and close the public hearing, and then you can take a vote on the certificate of appropriateness.
So we make a motion to open the public hearing?
It's really open at this point, sir.
Okay, great. If you're inviting comments from the board, I can tell you, I drove by just 10 minutes ago, and I live in the area as well. Welcome to the neighborhood, Chris. I'm at 5 Rockledge. I never even knew those units were there. So I don't think they have an impact at all on the character of the neighborhood.
Thank you, Dan. And Dan, maybe we can take a brief pause between agenda items, and I'll say a few words. I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself to the other members. I was not aware that you'd be appearing here tonight.
Oh, okay.
Like Dan, don't see any issues whatsoever from a historic preservation standpoint with respect to these units. Unless anyone has any other thoughts, I would move to approve the application without any conditions attached to it.
I'll second.
All
This
in
is Phil,
favor?
by the way.
Aye.
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 Thank you, folks. Mr. Walker, I'll prepare the certificate of appropriateness, which will reflect you now as the applicant, and you'll be able to have that for your files.
Yeah, so just so you know, Mr. Walker, we do want to make sure once you get the file, just follow up the billing department to make sure that you do have it closed out, so you can sort of close out the file. It doesn't show up later if you're trying to, apply for a permit for something else. Have an open item.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Good luck.
Okay, so with that, Adam, I guess you want to take over before we get to the next item?
Yeah, just a brief pause in the agenda. Welcome, Dan Garbowet. Dan and I met together with the village manager several weeks ago. When were you formally appointed, Dan, if you know?
I guess they told me to start in September, and I was invited to the Zoom meeting. So
Okay.
That's all I know.
Okay.
Although I checked the HPC website a couple of days ago or a week ago, my name's not there. So perhaps I'm not supposed to be here. I don't know.
Well,
Frankly.
I'll ask Jamie to update that, and Adam to for that the question you had. I think we appointed Dan about a month ago. I want to say it in one of our regular meetings.
It was a manager's appointment. It was done during the manager's
Correct.
portion of one of the August meetings.
Thank you, Stuart.
But was another member approved at that time in addition to Dan?
I think we did just one at this point.
Just one at this point, yes.
Okay.
Mary Kay?
Was there another?
I will double check. I'll go back to the meeting. I'll let you know. But if anything, I'll talk to. I guess we can ask Karen. See if she has anybody else. Were you aware of somebody else, Adam?
Yeah, there's two people, Daniel Darboy
There might-
and Mary Kay Griner.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So I have them both here listed, but Mary Kay's not here.
Okay.
Maybe in the participants. Doesn't appear. So we'll have to maybe follow up with her and find out what happened. She may be like at the, armory right now, wondering where the meeting is. So I hope not.
Okay. Dan, what I suggest is that you reach out to me by email. I don't know if you've been set up with a village email account yet.
No, to my knowledge, no. I think I got an email saying I would be.
Okay. You can send me an email from whatever address you feel comfortable sending it from to my village email address, which is amarkovics at villageofossining, is it .org?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, Dan, what is your email address? I can email it to you right now.
Yeah, it's I use D as in Daniel, V as in Victor, Garbowit at gmail.com. I have my phone here, so I guess I could log in and.
Yeah, I'm going to forward you that. I don't know what happened. I guess it didn't get forwarded to you, but I will send it to you right now.
Yeah, I got this from you, Jamie. So
There's
the
two
invite for the
Jamies. There's a
Zoom.
Jamie Kane and there's a Jaime Martinez. So,
Oh, Jaime Martinez.
so
Yeah.
did you get it from a Martinez or last name Kane?
No, it's from Jaime. I pronounced
Oh,
it Jamie. I shouldn't have. It's
Yeah.
Jaime
Jamie
Martinez.
does the emails, but it goes through my account. So
Oh,
he
okay.
actually sends all of the notices to everybody. It just says it's from me, but it's not.
Okay.
Anyways, I've just emailed you your village email investment. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, here it is. So do you want me to respond to this? I guess.
No, just give me if you can either shoot me an email tomorrow from whatever account.
Yeah, okay.
With a phone number to call you at, and I'll give you a call back and show you how to log into your village.
Sure.
The thing about it is, I guess you're probably new to government, so everything that you do in your official capacity,
Yeah.
emails, text messages, whatever, are foilable. And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to get into a situation where you start sending emails in regards to your responsibilities here as HPC member on your personal email, because at that point, that means that we can foil your personal email and become subject to like lawsuits and things like that.
Like Hillary Clinton.
Not regularly,
Yeah.
but they could happen, and you just don't want to,
So what, I lost track then, Jaime. Should I just email you back my phone number? I could tell you my phone number right now.
Yeah, email me your phone number and a good time to call. It probably
Okay.
you didn't.
So I will use my Gmail account to email you my phone number.
That's okay. That's okay.
Oh, all right.
That's okay. I'm trying to teach you about good practice. We'll go over this tomorrow. Sure. Just email me your phone number and some good times to call, and I'll give you a call tomorrow, and then we'll go over all this.
Okay. Sure.
Great.
And Dan, again, when you have an opportunity, send me an email and we can set up a time to talk.
Yeah, I'll copy you on this as well, Adam.
Okay, with that, let's move to the next agenda item, which is the Hudson Crest Smith Robinson House application.
I mean, we have a number of people who are going to participate, who I think are in the, let's call it the green room. So if we could bring them over.
Dan, Larry, Jonathan Clues, bring them both in right now. Albert Mazuka also?
Yes, he's part of that as well. Thank you.
All right. Isabel Quito is here, but not.
I'm not familiar.
I tried to bring her in before, and
Okay.
I don't know.
The three folks you mentioned are part of this.
Okay. We have two of them in. Albert is not transferred for some reason.
And
Okay.
we also have
Albert now as well.
our building inspector, Joe Augustinelli, because there were some communication, he may be able to answer any questions that also may exist.
So basically, I mean, we're here to talk about, I think, the conditions of the Hudson step. So I don't know.
Maybe I can just give a little background, Jaime, to just start it off, and then this involves specifically, folks, and Dan, for your information, it's the Smith Robinson House, which is on the property of a project which is known as Hudson Step or Hudson Crest, located at 34 State Street in the village of Ossining. It is a project that has all of its approvals, including a certificate of appropriateness from the HPC a number of years back. It is The Smith Robinson House is one that is a historic building. It is, and the certificate of appropriateness dealt with certain work that is to be done on that building. I had requested that certain members of the HPC who were available, and I think it was Catherine, Joyce, and Adam may have been there, to go to visit the property a few weeks back. I believe that Sergeant Donahue of the police was there as well with his with the drone, so we were able to get some photos as well. There were pictures taken of the roof of Smith Robinson, which essentially showed that in many locations there was no roof at Smith Robinson. So as a result, there has been communications with the property owner. That's through Mr. Klus, Mr. Mazuka, who is a consultant for the developer with regard to the roofing work, and that involved our building inspector, Joe Augustinelli, with regard to certain work that needs to be done with regard to maintenance of that particular property. There are proceedings pending in the Justice Court in Ossining. Those were originally on tomorrow. The owner's counsel, Mr. Leary, who was on this Zoom call, had requested a one-week adjournment, to which we have consented, we meaning the village and particularly me. So I think that's pretty much as up to date as it is. I know I had sent a note to Mr. Mazuka asking a question with regard to an engineer's report, which was something that Mr. Augustinelli had requested. And I think that's just about as up to date as I am. Adam or anyone else from the HPC, I'll leave it up to you folks. We have people here from Hudson Crest. So if you have any questions as to specifically relating to Smith Robinson, that's why I thought it would be good to have some folks here tonight.
Thank you, Stuart. Maybe I'll say to the outset, this there is pending litigation. Essentially, there's a pending matter in Town of Ossining Justice Court concerning this property, and I'm curious to hear from the owners about the status of the property. Perhaps hear their thoughts about the pending matter. But Stuart, I might suggest that we reserve comment as a group for another time, considering the pending matter before Town of Ossining Justice Court.
I leave that up to you. I didn't think one necessarily impacted the other. I thought you folks may want to get some sense of what work is being proposed to be done at Smith Robinson, and where that all stands. That is separate and distinct from it. But however you folks want to proceed, this is really something I thought was more an information session for the HPC, because it does involve a historic building, and we did have some folks from the HPC who were there. So however you wish to proceed, Chair, it's up to you folks. I just thought it would be good to have you to hear or get information if you so requested.
May I ask a question? Or should I wait until Q&A is there another part of the meeting for Q&A among board members?
Yeah, Dan, I might reserve comment for now. And I might suggest later on in this meeting, we break separately with Stuart for an advice of counsel session concerning the pending litigation. But I'm all ears. I think we all are as a commission to hear from the owners about the status of the property and the work they have underway.
Hi, this is Jonathan Klus. I'm a member of the ownership group. I'm also here this evening with Dan Leary, who's our land use counsel, and Al Mazuka, who is our construction consultant, who is running point for us on everything relating to construction and the project. I'll try and make it brief, but please jump in with any questions you have. First of all, thanks for having us this evening. Second of all, we're committed to delivering everything that has been agreed to. Not really understanding what to expect this evening, we were hopeful to open a dialogue and explain to you where we're at in the process, and hopefully open up a dialogue that we can address your concerns and agree on a plan to move forward. If you would find it helpful, I would ask Al Mazuka to give a brief summary of what we've done to date, really for the purposes, or excuse me, for the purpose of explaining where we're at this moment and how we intend to move forward. But I think there's some questions, and we understand sensitivities on your end. So as we desire to move forward, we want to make sure that we're doing that in accord with your desires and your sensitivities, and there are some decisions that would have to be made specifically how to move forward. If nobody has any questions, Al, would you briefly give an overview of what's transpired and where we're at the moment, please? Also, Al, you're on mute. I don't know if you... I think you're still on mute.
Mute. There you go. How's that?
Thank you.
Okay, fine. We around about the end of May, we were asked to bring in an engineer and have him go through a series of things relative to the physical nature of the building and what we needed to do going forward during the course of construction. Of course, that part hasn't happened yet. We haven't gotten to that point. But the first area of concern was, of course, the porch and how to gain entry. Our engineer felt that the porch roof had gotten to the point where it was not safe, was difficult to approach, and we tried to find a way for to approach the roof structure so that it wouldn't cause any harm to anybody working on it. Of course, we got to the point where we the high winds took care of that, and the porch roof came down without having to worry about how to maintain safety for the workmen. That was unfortunate, but that it came down in that way. But it was either that the engineer's first concern was we should take it down by mechanical means, which means pull it down. So it wound up being the same thing. Now that the porch roof is down and it's safe to gain entry through the front door, we can do that. However, in order to be able to get up to the roof, we have to make sure that the passage to the roof through the stairs that exist are stable and are going to allow safe passage. We have a tentative meeting with the engineer sometime during the course of the day tomorrow to see how we're going to get up to that roof and give the building inspector what he requires, which is to make sure that the roof itself can withstand a 30 pounds per square foot snow load and 115-mile-an-hour wind. That's where we are in the process. It's at this point, we have to approach the building carefully. It's been in, let's say, our control for just about 4 months, and we've had to approach it where in a way that we can make the place safe and get as much engineering information as we possibly can from it.
Thank you, Al. questions, comments? I don't really know how this operates, so we're happy to answer any questions or however you would find most productive.
I think that that's fair, Mr. Klus. If any of the board members have any questions with regard to what Mr. Mizuki indicated with regard to this building, which, as I mentioned, is subject to a prior certificate of appropriateness from the board, you're welcome to ask.
I was gonna, if I may, since I'm new to the board, this project's new to me. It's outside the district, but is it an individual landmark?
Yes, sir.
Is it a federal or a state?
No, local.
Locally designated. Oh, wonderful. Okay. And what is the issue that the roof was never a new roof was never part of the original certificate of appropriateness? Is that the issue before us?
No, the issue is that the building is falling apart.
Okay.
There is literally now no roof on the building.
Right.
So with hurricanes Henri and Ida, particularly Ida dropping 6.44 inches in the village of Ossining of rain, there's a lot of concern. That storm also accounted for essentially the porch area collapsing. So it's important under the village code that historic buildings be maintained. And so
Yeah.
that's essentially what we're looking at. So that's why it was important to see what the condition is. We did not know of the significant issue with regard to the roof until the drone flights were done, which allowed us to basically see that if you look, you'll just see there's essentially a hole there and there's no roof.
Yes.
So that's why a lot of work, and that's why, and given that the HPC deals specifically with exterior work, and there is, I won't go into necessarily the history of the building, but let's say, as Joyce can verify and as other members can, this building was constructed of Sing Sing marble and was constructed by inmates from Sing Sing to look to some extent like the original warden's house. So it is a rare piece of architecture, both in this village and within the entire area. So it
May I be able to add one piece of information?
Sure.
Okay. I just, from the documents that I have received, the porch didn't fall, the porch roof, but the porch roof was slated to be removed and rebuilt anyway. I mean, it wasn't like the porch roof was a significant architectural element that was to be preserved. It was supposed to be removed. There was no roof on it. And
I appreciate that, Mr. Mizuki. I think it's more that, and you're right, and I misspoke and I apologize for that. But I just think, you know, from the HPC's perspective, particularly since we're dealing with a certificate of appropriateness that I believe was issued in 2015, I believe. It's just important that they recognize, you know, and that obviously they're aware of, you know, the importance, you know, of this building and of obviously preserving it. But you are correct as to what you state with regard to specifically the porch area. So thank you for that correction.
And thank you, Stuart, for emphasizing just how important this building is historically and architecturally. So my only question for the Mr. Klus, Mr. Mizuki, is what is the plan of action going forward, and what is the timeline with respect to preserving this building?
well, the timeline, we had we were asked to put a tarp on the building. And we felt that putting a tarp on the building would be counterproductive, that it would create a dangerous situation for workmen. It would be nothing more than a temporary, very temporary situation. And probably if we had done it, it would have blown away during these storms. But if we put a tarp on the building, we're going to make it impossible for anybody working on the building to be able to get up to where they need to be taking a tarp off, putting it back on, taking a tarp off, it just doesn't make any sense. So we had some local contractors. We submitted requests for bids, and it was our intention to put a more permanent, temporary roof on the Smith Robinson house that we felt would make it watertight and give us a safe walking surface, so that when we did go up to start working on the individual areas, crickets on the roof, make preparations for the cupola to be placed, we would have the ability to do that in a safe, workmanlike manner. The building department, the contractor tried to get a building permit. From what I understand, the building inspector requested that before we do put a roof on, that we get an engineer's certification that the roof can withstand the snow loads and the wind of 115 mile an hour, which is the ultimate wind speed for that area. We were aware of that. Those requirements would not have been any less mandatory if we had a tarp. So the tarp would not have saved us from having to have that roof support 30 pounds per square foot or 150 mile an hour winds. We just felt that, and it would have cost a great deal more money to do what we wanted to do, but we're halted in that until we get this engineer's report. Tomorrow, we hope to be able to get the engineer up to the roof. The stairs we don't know what condition the stairs were ever in. We don't know that the stairs were ever in a safe condition, but it's my responsibility to make sure that when I send people up into the building, that the stairs are safe. It's unfortunate, but that's an OSHA regulation, and I can't in good conscience send anybody into a building, whether the building's occupied, been occupied, under construction, or whatever. I can't send them in without making sure that they have a safe way to get in and out. So that's what we need to do. If it takes an extra day, an extra 2 days, apologize, but that's the only thing, that's the only safe way to be able to do it. It is our intention to make sure that the building does not deteriorate. We don't feel that the building is in danger of falling. It's not like the building is coming apart. The roof that is, missing from the building has been missing from the building for quite a long time. This isn't something that happened in the last 4 months or 8 months. This is something that's been going on for years. They apparently, in one of the reports, was a tarp on the roof back in 2013. So I don't have any personal involvement in the project prior to May of this year. So I can't say what the conditions were, except when I look at photographs, historic aerials, I know that during the course of the demolition of the building, there was no roof on. So we are trying to overcome a situation that we, let's say, inherited as quickly as possible, as safely as possible.
May I just add some things to the board to clarify some of the comments that are being brought to the board now? Yes, a certificate of appropriateness was issued in 2015. At that time, owner pulled a permit to do repairs to the building, which we had issued after we did an extensive review. The permit lapsed, it expired, no work was done other than, they did do an asbestos abatement within the building, but beyond that, nothing else was done. That was 5 years ago. So the request of putting a tarp on the building at this point was because over the last number of years, since there was no action taken to protect the building, and as Mr. Mizuka is saying that they're not sure what the condition of the staircases are in the interior of the building, what actually is occurring, the fact that we are doing nothing to this point is allowing the interior of the building to deteriorate further, which causes the problems of why, now we have an issue with the staircase and we have an issue with other interior members of the building that they need to access that roof. And obviously, without the roof having any roof covering on it, I'm sure the structure of that is also deteriorating as it is exposed to the weather elements. So therefore, to ask for an analysis from an engineer, just as Mrs. Mizuka is indicating that they have to get an engineer because he will not send any workers into that building or up in that building because he has to be concerned with safety. That is the situation here. The fact that this roof is not being protected or has not been protected for all this period of time has further deteriorated this building to the point now where we have to get a structural engineer to do an analysis, not only of the roof, but the interior conditions of the building. The building, I'm sure at this point, has extensive mold in it as well that it needs to be remediated. So the request of having a tarp on it is basically to say, well, if we're not going to go forward with getting a permit to, put a new roof on it, frame a new roof on it, whatever the engineer is requesting to be done. The attempt is a temporary measure to protect the building as it has nothing to protect it at this point right now. But if the intent of the owner is to say we're gonna go forward and actually do the analysis, do whatever repairs need, whether it be structural, roof coverings, whatever needs to be done, that's all well and good, and that's fine. We will not ask for a tarp. You can go ahead and do that, but there is a time frame here because if we're going to, if we're not going to get to the point of actually, protecting this building, then something has to be done in a temporary factor. So, hopefully, I understand that the construction consultant has only been on for a couple of months. But if we're going to actually go ahead and do something to protect this building and we're going to get a roof on, that is fine. We'll give you the time to get the engineer's report. But I think that, the clock is ticking. We have to get something done to protect this building.
Well, we were ready, willing, and able to do this about 2 weeks ago. But I understand your concerns. I mean, you have safety concerns. I have safety concerns. I hate to say it, but an additional week of making sure that everybody is safe in the building and everybody's going
right, which is what I asked from you to get an engineer's report. Otherwise, what you said is that 2 weeks ago they would be ready to put a roof on that building, but your statement was that I'm not going to send anybody up in that building if it's unsafe, whether it's through stairs or whatever. So the request of what I'm saying to tell us the condition of the roof and the access to it is something that should be considered anyway, I'm asking for that, but that's actually what needs to be done. So without that, we wouldn't have been putting a roof on any roof coverings 2 weeks ago because for the safety.
We had a lift up on the roof. I walked the roof myself, all of it. So I physically went up onto the roof and observed what's there. We were able to take a look at some of this, some of the structure as where it's exposed, where it hits the wall. It's not punky. It's it's fairly solid. It's not like it was sitting in water. And the roof, the roof doesn't have any covering on it, but it's got sheathing on 90% of it. The roof sheds water. It's not like when it rains, the water just pours in the building. As well as I do, that even if there isn't, the water's only going to come through the cracks. But at the edge, we could get a pretty good understanding that if we put 90-pound felt on the roof, or half-inch plywood, 90-pound felt on the roof, it's not going to increase the load on that roof significantly to the point where it's going to collapse. So we didn't look at the interior framing. We walked it. We felt it was safe. We felt it was as safe as putting a roof on any other building, that you don't look at you don't look at every roof structure when you put a roof on. Look, I understand what you're saying, though. It's not like I don't have, knowledge of the codes, and I knew what wind zone it's in, and I know what the snow load is. You're absolutely right. In order to be able to be 100% sure that nothing is going to happen through the winter,
I want to quickly just kind of point out something that you mentioned here, and just help support the inspector. Me and him did actually go inside that building. So you mentioned that you didn't go in the building. I went into the second floor of that building. It is the level of decay and sort of just the ceilings have collapsed pretty much everywhere. There's water, there's massive black mold stench. I got lightheaded by the time I got to the second floor. I do think that, yes, you're right. You need to make sure it's safe for your guys. I'm not sure how you do that, but inspecting the interior to make sure that nobody's going to fall while putting that on there might not be a terrible idea.
I've been in the building.
It is really bad inside.
I've been up to the roof.
Inside, you've been on the inside.
We've actually had people in cleaning. We've actually cleaned out the floors of the building to create a safe passage. We had to do that in order to be able to go up, but we have gone all the way up. I know, I can't put anybody else in danger. I can put myself in danger, but I probably shouldn't. I've had my share of falls through stairs, but I know how to walk on a set of stairs that's falling apart. When I walked up these stairs, it was probably not a very smart thing to do. Probably wasn't smart for you to do or me to do.
No.
But I've made it all the way up to the roof. I know what kind of situation is in. And I still have to take some of the ceiling down in order to be able to look at the roof. The fact that the ceilings have fallen down in some of the areas is not a bad thing. Let me say, it's not trapping water. The water's going through. I don't want to make any excuses, but after the recent storm, I went downstairs. One of the floors was not even wet. So the building is receiving kind of a constant slow wetting. It's not like it's getting a flood of water, a deluge every time it rains. But here's the situation is now the floors are clear. I can tell where I can walk and where I can't walk. The main stairs, which are slated for removal anyway, are intact. That's the stairs going from the lower level up to the first level. We really don't want to go in the lower level only because the main problem with that is the raccoon feces. It's the mold is one thing. We can take care of the mold, but the raccoon feces is just, we have to get some air in there. So we hope tomorrow to bring in a fan, open up some of the doors. Now that we can get the porch door open, we can get some air into the first floor. That's something we couldn't do before because we couldn't allow anybody to get underneath the front porch. Now that the front porch is gone, we can go into the building, we can open it up, we can air it out, we can get some lights in there, we can get a generator, find out what we need in order to be able to get up. It may be that we have to take some of the stairs down. The stairs are not original stairs anyway. The bottom of the stairs, the plaster that was on the bottom of the stairs is gone. What we can see holding up the stringers is sections of plywood. Well, we know they aren't original. What's fallen apart is the landing that the stairs are attached to. So what we need to be able to do is either take that set of stairs down and put in a ladder or reinforce the landing in such a manner that we can get up the stairs. It doesn't help the fact that the fronts of the nosings are snapping off. But like I say, they're not original stairs. And they were reported to not be original stairs in the original report, that led up to the to the designation of it being a historic building. There are some parts of the building that are not original, and a lot of them have to go. What I'm getting at is that we know we've done significant amount of investigation into the records, what was asked to be removed, what they could not tell, what they could tell. We know that the building was leaking back in 2014. We don't know to what extent, but we know that, I mean, the floors were never wood floor. Well, maybe they were wood floors at one time, but they're not wood floors now. They're vinyl asbestos or vinyl tile. I don't know whether they're asbestos tile, but they're vinyl tile floors. They're coming up. We have to remove them anyway. If what we need to do is take up the plywood, we need to take up the plywood. That's yet to be figured out. What we need to do is go in there, make sure the building is got a way to be aired out, got a safe means of entrance and exit, get this roof on the building, and start our work.
So what is the timeline, Mr. Mizuka?
Well, the timeline is tomorrow we're going to try to get the engineer in. If he's not going to go up the stairs, we have to make some other arrangements. If we have to take stairs out, that may take another week, let's say. Then we'd make another appointment for him to come out and look at the roof. And the issue we have is whether he feels that it will withstand 30 pounds a square foot, or whether it's going to withstand 30 pounds a square foot according to chapter 15 and 16 of the new code. That's a little different issue. We have, if we're looking for the structure to withstand, the original roof could not have met the requirements of chapter 15 and 16 of the International Building Code. They could come close, but I don't think that it could.
Mr. Mizuka, I think the only person on this call who knows about the building codes in detail is Mr. Agostinelli. We are a volunteer board comprised of people who care about historic preservation in Ossining and have various qualifications unrelated to the building codes. We just want to know what the timeline is for stabilizing the roof and doing the work on the porch that was destroyed by the recent storm.
Well, the porch is gone. The porch roof is gone. The porch itself still has to undergo quite a bit of demolition. I don't want to surprise anybody, but probably 50% of what you see there as the porch has to be removed in order to be able to bring it up to the plans according to the historic preservation. The stairs have to be removed, walls have to be taken out. The center portion has to be removed and brought back to the face of the building. So there's quite a bit of work that has to be done to that porch. And I would think that, maybe the building inspector would agree, while we have safe access and a stable front porch, I think we should leave it a safe access and a stable front porch until we have a chance to do some work on the interior of the building. We shouldn't be renovating the exterior porch until we have the interior done. As far as the interior, we have the ability to go in and put the roof on now. I could call up the roofing company and in 3 days they could be out there putting on the temporary roof. However, in order to be able to meet the requirements of the building department, we have to get an engineer's survey of the roof. And that's not to say that he isn't justified in asking for that. I'm just saying that's what we have to do before we can put a roof on.
We're not going to put a Band-Aid on it and put some sort of roofing material on there to find out that the structure that it's on needs to be done. So that's why we're asking just about the roof to get that done.
I don't disagree with you. You're not getting a challenge from me on that issue.
I believe the board is just asking that when we're going to be able to move along to get that aspect completed.
Yeah, that would be my question. To Mr. Markovic's question, are we looking at a month? 2 weeks? 90 days?
Last week, I went into the building myself. We looked at the stairs. It was right after the storm. We cleaned up the exterior. We went into the building. I looked at the stairs. I brought the situation to the owners. The owners said, let's make the appointment with the engineer. We'll go in there and we'll try to get him up to the roof this week. That's what we're going to do. If we can get him up there and he can make the determination tomorrow, get us back a report that we can send to the building inspector, then we can make the arrangements as soon as it will fit into the roofing contractor's schedule at this point. Hopefully next week he'll be up there putting on a roof. I don't know whether that's
So maybe within a week or two?
Yeah, I would say that's what we're shooting for.
Okay. A number of the members of this commission have actually been in that building. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I do recall there was significant deterioration in there even then. Paint peeling, pieces of plaster falling. So I think we all recognize that this is not easy and not terribly straightforward. But it's I guess time is of the essence at this point, given the age of the building.
To that point, Phil, may I ask a question? Is there anything that the storm did or anything that occurred from 2015 when I think you said the certificate of appropriateness was issued? I recall looking at it, actually it was signed by, I think, by Joanne Tall, like Joanne Tall. Is there anything that's arisen in those 5 years, 6 years that might require a new submission for a certificate of appropriateness? In other words, this new roof we're talking about, was that always part of the original C of A, or is there going to be some new work that maybe was never anticipated at that time? And how can we expedite it if that's the case?
A quick answer, Dan, is that the recent storm blew away what I've called the porch. It's 6 columns that were in front of the building and sort of a porch roof on top of that. So that's blown away. So to the extent that's going to be reconstructed, that's going to require a new submission. Beyond, Mr. Mazuka, beyond the immediate pressing issue of stabilizing the roof, I was also just interested generally in the timeline for doing the rest of the work, restoring the porch, restoring the cupola. Do you have a general sense of the timeline there?
At this point, no. That's the work that I've done has been to get an engineer, find out what we need to do. We have some things that we have asked the engineer to do that we haven't gotten to yet, that have not fallen into place. But you must understand that there were the porch roof probably does not need to be resubmitted simply because it always was planned to be removed and replaced. The roof on top of the building was not planned to be removed and replaced. We do not know whether it does need to be removed or replaced. We'll find that out during the course of our removal of probably all of the ceiling finishes, which would have had to have come down anyway. The work on the outside of the house is probably something that was going to have to be taken a look at, because no one could have possibly known what, I mean, the exterior that you see now was mostly covered by other buildings. There wasn't any way on either side, the owner side or the town side, to know what the requirements were going to be for correcting or restoring the building underneath finishes that were attached to the building. So that's probably going to have to be taken a look at. But that's in, I believe, the owner's plan to move forward. But right now, we're interested in securing the building, making sure that it's safe, making sure that it's preserved, putting the roof on the building, and getting to work on clearing out whatever we need to in order to be able to make a complete engineering survey of the building.
Was there anything in the interior that was part of the C of A? I don't recall seeing anything.
Dan, generally, the COA does not involve interiors. HPC deals with exteriors.
Right. So there's nothing in the interior that requires a fresh look by the Preservation Commission
No.
by statute. So what we're focusing on then is work on the side to help expedite maintaining the building. I guess it's considering work on the side, the north and south side, I think you're talking about, at least from when I looked at a picture of what I think it looked like originally, and then the roof. And was the porch structure itself part of the C of A or just the roof? Is that Albert?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The porch, there was some discussion about whether the porch should have stairs in the front, should it have stairs on the sides, what year are we trying to hit with the restoration? It was decided that, from reading the documents, that the stairs approach should be from the front, that the existing masonry should be removed, the pilasters that are holding up the porch should be repointed, and the structure that is underneath the center portion should be removed and brought back to the original face of the building. So the concrete stairs that are there now get totally removed. The masonry that's on the sides of the porch get removed. The deck eventually gets removed and replaced. So there is, and the balustrade has to be reconstructed. So there's considerable amount of work that has to be done to that porch.
Okay. And
The only timeline you're prepared to discuss, Mr. Mizuka, this evening is with respect to stabilizing the roof, right?
That's correct, Adam. That's what he's indicated, because that's where we are at this point.
Okay, I don't think we need anything further from Mr. Mizuka or the owner. If you have any concluding remarks, please feel free to share them.
Hi, I'm Dan Leary. I'm the attorney for Ossining Membership LLC. I think most of you are aware of this, but I just want to say it, just in case you're not. We came into ownership at the end of last year relative to a foreclosure matter. And so a lot of the deteriorating conditions have, stemmed from a time that is prior to our ownership. And since then, we've done much, and we continue to commit to doing what has been discussed tonight to address these issues. We're very familiar with the record, the secret findings, your certificate of appropriateness, and the conditions, and we're not proposing anything that would modify those. We understand what they are, and we understand that you made them conditions of your certificate of appropriateness. So we just want you to know that we're here in a cooperative tone. We're willing to work with you. But as Al mentioned, much of this was inherited. And again, going back to 2014 and what Mr. Ferranda saw a couple of years ago was a deteriorating situation that pre-existed our ownership. So we're looking to address these issues for you. We understand that that's your duty as the Historic Preservation Commission. We just look forward to resolving these issues with you and with your counsel, both in this context and in the town court proceeding.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you all.
Okay, we're done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Thanks.
Before moving on to one or two matters that were not on the agenda, would it be possible to go off recording for a few minutes for an advice of counsel session with Stuart Kahan to discuss the pending?
We can't at this point, Adam, because since this is by Zoom, anyone could Zoom in. Jaime, I believe,
So,
has sent an
yeah,
invitation.
There is a workaround. There is a workaround.
So you got a workaround? Go ahead.
All right, so the workaround is that somebody has to stay here for about 5 minutes. I'll log in. Everybody can log off of this except for maybe Joe, if he didn't mind staying here for 2 minutes. I'll log on to the advice of counsel session, which is not public. Then I'll come back here and then Joe can go back to you in the advice of counsel. And then I'll wait here until you're ready. And then when you're ready to take up the rest of the matters, you can come back to this public session. You could do that.
The
I'm
other
not sure.
option, Adam, if I might, is just go to the few minor things that you have, and then we can go into the advice of counsel. Joe doesn't have to stay for that. Adam's already, and there's already been an invitation sent around for it. So that may be actually the easier thing to do than the workaround. So I'll leave it up to you.
That's true.
That sounds good, Stuart. We'll
Okay.
move on to the other matters. It'll only take a few minutes, really.
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, so today is September 13th. In about 2 weeks, the New York State Preservation League, in cooperation with the State Historic Preservation Office and in cooperation with us, is going to be doing a webinar on historic rehabilitation tax credits. It's already been advertised, this webinar, on the New York State Preservation League's website. The webinar is going to run from 5:30 in the evening till 7 in the evening, so an hour-and-a-half program. I just saw it posted on the Village of Ossing's HPC webpage as well. I'm going to make a few introductory remarks, no more than about 5 minutes or so, about the HPC, what we do, who we are, and what we see for the future. And then, you know, the vast bulk of the presentation is going to be split between the New York State Preservation League and the State Historic Preservation Office. And they're combining what they normally do is 2 presentations into one. Normally, they split the presentations into one for homeowners and one for business owners or landlords for commercial properties. They're going to combine both of those presentations into this one webinar. So it covers both commercial tax credits and homeowner tax credits. And the experts are going to be leading the webinar, not me. They are the folks who really help people through this process. People who don't have landmarked homes, they can help get their homes landmarked. And for those whose properties are already landmarked, they can help navigate them through the historic tax credit application process. So that's what this webinar is about, is making more public, more accessible to people here in Ossining, how to use these tax credits to rehabilitate your historic property and save money. And that's the real reason behind it.
What day was it, Adam, again?
It's September 29th.
At 7?
From 5:30 to 7. And, you know, it's a little late, but I was thinking that it might be good to enclose a copy of the flyer that the New York State Preservation League generated in a mailing to Dan, you and your neighbors in Sparta, and
Yeah, it's a great idea. Thank you.
others in Main Street. The question is, how can we get that done, and is it too late to get that done? That's a question for Jaime or Stuart.
It's not that hard to, no, not really. If you want to send it out, we can, I'm just trying to remember, the date of the meeting is,
29th?
can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
September 29, Jaime.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably we can get it out this week. There's not too many. So we can do that if that's what the board wants to do, we can definitely do that.
You know, also, if I could say, it's a great idea to do that, Adam. The Jug Tavern, which is generally more active than the Sparta Association, that's where a lot of people get information about what's going on in the district. And Doug Turchin and Rochelle Udell, his wife, you know, certainly if it goes to them, they'll probably put it on the Jug and the Sparta Association website, which would even reach more people.
Thank you for that suggestion, Dan. I can reach out to Doug.
Yeah, okay, I can reach out to, but you know them anyways, I think so.
I can reach out to Doug Turchin, but I think it'd be important to get a copy of the flyer in the mail. Some people don't look at the web blasts or scan through them real quick. And really that this program is most directly targeting the people who are potentially going to get this mailing. And I just think it's important, if possible, that we get it to them.
Ironically, the guy who was up here for the AC on the agenda probably is one of those people. Maybe you put it in his signed certificate of appropriateness.
Right. One other thing about the New York State Preservation League, the folks there had wanted to meet with me and some volunteers on the HPC, if possible, before the 29th. Originally, they had proposed this Thursday. I can't now meet on Thursday of this week.
What would be the purpose, Adam? I might be free if I'm allowed, if you want me to do that.
If you could volunteer, Dan, I think we're considering next Thursday.
What would it be for, though? I mean, is it something I'd be qualified to represent the board on?
Well, I think, you know, Dan, you've lived in Sparta for so long, you've lived in Ossining for so long. I think you would be qualified to comment on sort of the state of affairs of historic preservation in Ossining, things that have happened in this community over the last number of years, ways in which the HPC may want to take a more active role in encouraging people to landmark or to apply for tax credits or to apply for grants. If that's something you feel qualified to comment on, please, by all means, sit in.
Is it something I have to prepare a report on, or you just talk extemporaneously?
It is a relatively informal conversation.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd like me to do that, when is it on Thursday, the 30th?
Thursday, we're talking about the 23rd, the next Thursday.
Oh, it's the 23rd. And what time?
We haven't set a time yet.
All right. Well, I'm flexible, so okay.
Any other volunteers for the 23rd, probably during the day, and probably before 2:30, if I read my contact's email correctly.
If it's between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m., 9:30 and 12, I could probably do it.
Okay. Okay. Let me get back in touch with the group. All right. I'll circle back to the group in the coming days, see if I can nail down a time on the 23rd, and then we'll see where we stand with volunteers. Again, this is a totally informal meeting, really just a meet and greet. I think someone from SHPO will be there too. It's a good opportunity for us to put a face or faces to our name, and express our concerns and interests, and build a relationship with these two very important groups. That's that about the New York State Preservation League. One other matter I wanted to discuss this evening was the subject of locally landmarked properties. There's a link on our webpage. Now, Jaime, I wonder if you'd be able to share that with the group.
Link or the photos?
I'm looking for what currently is up on the HPC webpage that shows locally landmarked properties in the village.
Yeah, that would be great. I looked for it myself a couple of days ago. I was surprised to hear about the Robinson House being landmarked, but that's just me, maybe.
Yeah, hold on, let me just
Maybe it's in resources.
Yeah.
No.
is not it.
It's an
Oh, here it
appendix
is.
C.
Is this it?
Yeah. Appendix C, all the way at the back.
It should actually be on the webpage, a place that lists locally landmarked properties. And maybe try map of the districts. Maybe it's hidden there.
Go down, keep going. There you go.
Florida.
No, that's just the maps.
Yeah, they're only maps. Are those building pictures of significant buildings? Are they the same as being a landmark, designated landmark, or it's not?
No, that's why you've got to go to, as Joyce said, you go to Appendix B, which has the list.
Oh,
Okay, this list, which was formerly up, has been taken down. It's a list that I requested some time ago be posted because, and Dan, this will be a good primer for you.
yeah.
There's an enormously significant difference between a locally landmarked property and one that lacks local designation. A property can be listed on the National Register of Historic Places without being locally landmarked. And if a property is only listed on the National Register of Historic Places without being locally landmarked, that property can be altered or demolished at will with no oversight from the village or any other entity. So, I had requested some time ago that a list be posted on the village HPC webpage listing those structures in the village that are locally landmarked and not just national registered listed places that are locally landmarked and therefore subject to oversight by the HPC.
So this list right here.
Actually, you want Appendix B. B as in boy.
Because the National Register has no overview, no pertinence to the commission. That's what you said, Adam, right?
Oh, my mistake. Maybe I'm wrong.
It has pertinence to the HPC National Register listing insofar as the HPC is concerned about historic properties. But if a property is not locally landmarked, the
My mistake.
no certificate of appropriateness is required to make alterations to it, and the HPC doesn't have any regulatory oversight.
Right. That's what I was getting at. Yeah, I understand.
So that list is not included in the significant sites and structures guide, which is at this point a decade old. And that's another subject of conversation, perhaps, is updating it.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very good idea because it was really, I was surprised to see we had any individual landmarks. As I said, wasn't easy to find, like the map, the historic district map.
So this list, Jamie Kane had generated a list. The list was available as a link on the village webpage up until very recently. I'm bringing it up because an issue arose recently. And that's the question of whether a property that is on the National Register is subject to the oversight of the HPC. Owners of properties in the village should be able to easily access this information. But the owner of the property in question, the Washington School, was not sure. And from all that I can tell, it's not a locally landmarked property, and therefore is not subject to the oversight of the HPC. And since we're in the significant sites and structures guide, Jaime, could you scroll to a picture of the exterior of the Washington School? Okay. I direct everyone's attention to the picture on the right at the top, next to above the historic photograph. You can see, well, actually, that is not the that's not the front of the building. Is there another picture of the front of the building? Well, anyway,
Your picture.
this is my picture. And I took this picture today. And I think it's evident where a change has been made. You know, there were flanking the main entrance door on the right, 2 windows that were symmetrical and matched the windows flanking the main entrance door on the left.
It's a modern storefront entry now.
Is that the only? Well, you can see it in the historic photo.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know, this is what happens when a building is not locally landmarked.
Adam?
Yeah.
That doorway that has like the white outline that your cursor is going over, I know that was there at least in 1972.
Okay.
Only because I went to kindergarten down those stairs. It was a different door. As I recall, it was a really heavy door, but then again, I was only about 40 pounds. But it was, there was quite a door there at one time. I think it was green.
Okay.
How's the building used now? It's not a school, is it?
The church and a community center at the top. Jaime, I sent you, I'm sorry, Adam, I sent Jaime the list so we could share it. That was to that link of the locally landmarked. I sent it to your email, Jaime.
Okay.
Joyce, it's no longer a gymnasium on the roof?
Well, they do have up there a room that they had ballet in this past weekend. So you got kind of a gymnasium still there, yes.
That was where the gym was.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow, there it is.
All right. Where is this list live now?
I'm trying to look at the pathway. It says sites, files. Huh.
That doesn't really tell you much. Do you
Yeah,
have
that's
other than that
telling me
link
anything.
to it? I mean, you can
But
always search it, you know?
Mhm.
Probably a space between the words.
Why don't we just arrange to put it up on the website? That's all.
One problem with the list, I don't know if you can call it up again. It was posted at one point in time, is that it shows the Washington School as among the structures that's locally landmarked, and it's not, as far as I can tell.
Oh.
So, to Phil's point, if there was a door there instead of the double windows, then the change is less dramatic than I thought.
That's also a drawing. The one with the windows is a drawing. So there may have been doors put in there quite a long time ago. That may have just been, well, that actually, I can't tell if those are, I guess they're windows there. But I don't know if that is an artist rendering or if it's accurate, because that entrance seemed like it was there for quite a while.
Okay.
If you own one of those properties, would you know it's part of a locally designated index? And there's something you get on your tax bill or on your title report or something?
No.
So you
Not on
could
your
have a
title
building,
report, not title report, and not tax bill. There's no reference on either.
so you could buy one of these properties and not know that you're held to a particular standard for the future?
That would be correct.
Wow,
It's called due diligence by the buyer.
really, huh? Like in New York, it's easy, you can't get a piece of property in New York City without knowing if you're in a district or not, or your building's designated.
Well, district is different than designation. Yeah,
Oh, I understand that, but also,
not up here, not here. It's not, we do not do that, and the assessor's records don't show that.
wow. So is there any way to double check the list? Like you pointed out, Washington is not, to your knowledge, part of it. There's a doubt that possibly that list is up to date or possibly entirely correct?
The clerk's office would have to go through every location and would have to then see if there is a conforming resolution to go back to the old clerk's records to look for it, Dan. It would be time consuming. It could be done, but it would be very time consuming.
But I
I mean,
think
it does state that it was listed in 1987, became a locally landmark property, so.
what I'd recommend is that
Yeah.
Jamie Kane be looped into this conversation, because I think some of this work was done already when I raised this issue some time ago. And I think Jamie Kane is the one who generated this list and confirmed the dates of the Board of Trustees resolutions.
Well, we can double check. Thank you.
But yeah, so who knows exactly how long those were there windows in the front of the Washington School on the right-hand side flanking the door? Was the door that looks glistening and brand new really brand new and recently installed? Regardless, the HPC would not have oversight over that as long as the property remains listed solely on the National Register and not locally landmarked. So I flagged this issue. I'm not proposing that we embark on another landmarking adventure just yet. To bring this back to the New York State Preservation League webinar coming up. my hope is to get people interested in the idea of landmarking their properties and less afraid of having a landmark status attached to their property, and to educate people about the kinds of benefits that are available to people who live in or use in some commercial way a landmark property.
May I get a copy of that list? Because a lot of these properties are in my neighborhood. Is it now available on the website, or it will be soon, or?
Yeah, I just sent it to Jamie Kane to ask her to post it. I'll forward it to you right now, though.
Thank you. So that's pretty amazing that people could have a property and not know it. And when they go to the building department, does the building department access this? Like
the building department has a list of all the properties that are landmark, has the parcel IDs. So yeah, the building department.
So if there's any,
if you try to get a permit,
go ahead.
If you try to get a permit, you know, you would be informed before being able to get a permit.
So one way somebody would know whether or not they have a listed property is if they're doing their due diligence, as Adam said. I mean, if you search the building department records, that would be the place that would tell you if your property is a designated landmark, assuming that you filed for any work during the time in which the designation had any.
I think from a practical standpoint, if you own a house in Sparta and you sell a house in Sparta, you know that your house is a historic landmark property.
I gotta say,
landmark as well. I think that most people who buy those properties are buying them knowing that they're historic.
Well, I have to say, I know some addresses that are missing on your list. I mean, I live in the neighborhood. I'm not going to mention them, and I wonder if that's true. If I talk to the owner. So
Dan, there's a difference between being in the neighborhood and being a contributing property.
Yeah.
Well,
there are properties within Sparta that are not considered contributing properties.
Oh, I understand that. I'm in one of those homes. I'm in Sparta. My house is 5 Rockledge. It wouldn't be contributing. It's built in 1989. I think that's your point.
That is my point. What I can only say is this: I understand what you're getting at, but if someone were to file an application for a permit, they'd be notified by the building department that they may have to go to the HPC in order to get an approval with regard to their particular property. We often get FOIL requests from realtors, Phil can say this, and from others who ask for the full 9 yards with regard to a property. And that might include that they would get, you know, a certificate of appropriateness that was previously filed with regard to the property. But tax records don't show that. So if you go to the assessment roll, there is no asterisk that this is a historic property. If you go to the receiver of taxes, either for the town or the village, there is no asterisk that says that this is a historic property. So it's really something that the owner is, you know, the owner has to do through their particular due diligence to determine it. But the building department would know of it, as would the planning department would know if a particular property is historic. That's what I can tell you.
It's of no practical effect unless you're trying to change something in your home, because you get no tax benefit from it per se. Or unless maybe at the seminar, which was a great idea to disseminate this information, maybe, you know, would be good for people who have never filed anything at the building department because they just haven't done anything in so long, that they could be eligible for something if they knew they were on this list.
If they, it will be up and we'll get it there. And if people want to look at it, they are welcome to do so.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Okay, so one last point, going back to the reservation webinar, my hope is that once the webinar is done, it'll be recorded, and we can use it as another way to reach out to property owners in the village to try to persuade them of the benefits of landmarking. Whether it's the Washington School or any other property that's on the National Register but not yet locally landmarked, having this webinar recorded and up and available for sharing with property owners will be a good persuasive device in addition to the other persuasive devices available to us. So with that said, why don't we adjourn the meeting? I'd make a motion to adjourn it for a brief advice of counsel session with Stuart Kahan concerning the pending litigation involving Hudson Step.
May I
Just
ask
real quick, did everybody get their link?
their link?
Yeah, I sent the link out to everyone. Just
Get your email. You would have got an email. It's
Confirmed.
just around 7:26 tonight.
Yes.
I got a Zoom.
Okay.
7:4. Photos of Washington School. Is that the link you're talking about?
Yes.
For that.
And in there,
Oh,
there
yeah,
will be a
thank you.
There's a Zoom link there.
May I just ask a question to circle back to the Robinson house? Is there a conflict that maybe isn't addressed yet? Because did I hear that our building inspector doesn't want to see some temporary solution to the roof?
Why don't we reserve it for the advice of counsel session?
Okay, I don't know if I'm in that or not. I was just,
That's,
You are.
that invitation includes you,
We're
Dan.
going to
Oh, all
all
right.
have
Well-
to,
okay, I'll be happy to attend that. Is that another link to, in
I
addition
sent,
to?
yeah, I sent the link. I'm gonna forward it.
Okay,
all right, with that, someone second a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
second,
Okay, we'll be meeting Stuart momentarily in a different Zoom link.
may I ask if they could resend it to me? I have an issue here booting up. I might have eliminated it by accident. If you could just resend the link to the legal meeting coming up, please.
All in favor of adjourning the meeting for an advice of counsel session?
Aye.
All right.
See you all in a bit.
Okay.